Hi, my name is Irina Rozovsky. I live in Athens, Georgia. I'm here in my studio filming this on my own. Very strange. And as you can understand, as many photographers out there probably feel the same, this is definitely not my preferred side of the camera. But here I am to tell you about In Plain Air, a book that just came out with Mac, or came out this spring. Pictures I've made over like about a 9-10 year period in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. It's a place that I had gone to many times, and then one day, never really thinking about it photographically, one day I was on a boat, similarly to these, can you see it? To these ladies in this postcard from the 1880s, also from Prospect Park. And looking out onto the shores, I saw so many different people that the idea of the American melting pot really like fell on my head like an anvil, and it was the most scenic, transcendent thing I'd seen, and so I wanted to make a project about it. So I started going on a religious daily in a religious daily way, and photographing whoever I met in different parts of the park. And let me tell you about a few of the pictures. This is the cover, and this is the back. It's an extension of the same picture. It's, I guess, a kind of, almost feels like a tapestry. It's, I'm standing on a hill, I'm looking down into what's called the Vale of Kashmir, and it's a little bit in shambles. You know, there are broken fences and branches. It's a time of year that's very bright and sunny, but the trees haven't bloomed yet, so it's not green. And yet there's a certain warmth in the brown tones. And most importantly, you know, across this X, but made by branch and shadow, are two people, one of whom is jumping, like in that Henri Cartier-Bresson picture of the man jumping in the rail yard. And someone standing there watching, and she's wearing a pink hat, which is important to me. And I like that in New York, anyone can be anyone. Perhaps she's a, you know, prima ballerina, and I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. It's just this small jest. It's like a small explosion in the middle of this otherwise uninhabited place at that moment. And there are all these moments of performances that I'll tell you about later, but it seems like I'm the only one watching. You know, it's a performance happening for an audience of one. So this is a picture that's really important to me. It was one of the turning points in the project. This is a man sweeping the lake. You know, it seems almost like he's preparing a stage or cleaning his house. And this way that people care for the park, that they come back again and again and kind of tend for it as if it were their home, is communicated here. And it's also this kind of classical pose that he's in, and the light around him, the tone, felt very soft to me and caring. But I like that it's at the earliest part in the book, so it kind of sets the stage. You know, it's as if either he's cleaning up at the end of the performance or preparing. I was really drawn to the lake. That was the, you know, I told you the moment that I was on the boat in the first place, when this body of work kind of occurred to me. And so the lake was somewhere I would always begin and end, just geographically, where I would enter the park and leave the park. And there's always someone fishing or, you know, communing with water, which is a rare thing to do in the middle of a city. These ladies here with their makeshift fishing rods. And you can tell that she's looking towards the edge of the frame. There are probably, you know, more of her family or friends there. There's always someone else around in the panorama. If I'm looking around left and right, there are people. On weekday mornings, not as many, but it was important for me to isolate people in the frame, not to show the entire spread. This man also was surrounded by friends and family, but in this image looks like a, you know, lost Civil War soldier who's kind of toppled on his own in the forest. So I think there's a kind of beauty and loneliness, or a melancholy, where a person is by themselves in nature that is at the heart here. Even though many people come here with friends and family, there's this kind of solitude that I think is necessary for surviving in the city. This is a group, I have no idea what their names are, and it doesn't really seem to matter to me now, because there are exchanges. I think there are exchanges with everybody in these photos to some extent, you know, even if it's just speechless, wordless. We're sharing the same space. People know I'm there. They know I'm there with a camera, and they invite in. There's a kind of, like I mentioned before, a kind of performance that if someone is there, they know that they're in public, and yet they're doing something sort of private. Like these people seem to have brought their furniture from home, or look like they're sitting on a couch. And I love the spine and the arm and the thumbs here, and how they're each separated, and there's a kind of staggering way that they're sitting. And then this guy's expression is, it's touching to me, you know. It's not just I'm looking at him, but he's equally looking back. So I think the pictures I'm choosing to talk here are kind of the private moments, which I think this is a collection of, really, you know. It's a sum of its parts, you know, the individual people that come together to show a portrait of a place, to unlock the place in addition to each other. So there aren't really many mixes of people jammed up against each other in the images, because it's a kind of quilting process of putting this book together. This is also an early image. This is a woman that I was later in touch with. She saw her photo in an exhibit and was touched, because this was a conversation she was having with her boyfriend, a pivotal conversation, and she said it was kind of incredible to have it documented. But I remember coming up to them, and there's something about the way they were talking, or, you know, looking at each other, enraptured in this moment, that seemed so intense. And I remember asking if I could photograph them without trying to break their moment. I think that was my approach all the time, is how do I allow people to do what they're doing and just make it seem as if it's almost happening for the camera, but not, like almost as if it's a scene in a painting or a film, but that's also very natural and believable. And they went exactly back to this conversation, you know. So there is something like unstoppable. And I really like that there's this stuff here, you know. It's a little timestamp, like you can kind of place yourself in the development of electronic technology. In this photo, it's a group looking at two kids who are by a tree, and the photographer in this image, well, I'm the photographer of the entire image, but inside is covered up by these two people, is another photographer who's photographing these kids. And something in the image, you know, maybe the leaves and the color of the air, the atmosphere, the trees behind them, it feels sort of ominous, melancholy. There's a loneliness in the air, the way this kid is looking at me. All these scenes are happening on their own without me, and I just kind of show up and see it. But they're not private, they're not exactly public, they're sort of in between. It's a sort of soft spot, sweet spot between the two. This is a woman hanging on a branch like the Cheshire Cat, and it seems so idyllic and almost better than reality, except for the fact that, well, she's wearing Victoria's Secret shorts, and also the way this branch is coming undone seems almost kind of perverse and vulgar. But nevertheless, let's carry on and make the best of it. It's a city park. And so there are all these moments of like reverie and fantasy and transformation. Like, how can one scene be transformed into something else? How can an afternoon in the park become like somewhere else? I like this kind of contrast or contradiction between what people wear and how they carry themselves and their accessories against this backdrop of trees. And okay, it's a manicured landscape, but at the same time it's sort of wild and it's sort of like nature on its own. And that kind of contradiction between the two, you know, is there a Yankees hat or something, and it's they're just getting enveloped and sucked into this natural bush. And so, you know, I showed you the lake. The lake was a kind of important character for me in and of itself. And there's so many moments around it that I think heighten what a person might be doing, such as putting a fish in a bag or maybe putting the fish back in the lake. I don't think I found out. Is he just freeing one of his own fish from home, or is that just like supper right there? So this image I like so much, you know, I think it's one of the photos that if, you know, I had to talk about how I made the pictures, this image is important because it's, you know, I'm just walking around with a camera, nobody cares, everybody's busy doing their thing. It's this primal need to be with nature, and I feel like I'm on the same page with people, and yet I'm just a step apart because there's a camera, and the camera is also actually kind of a reason to be there, a reason to look at them. I couldn't quite get as close if it wasn't for the camera, and you know, that's a well-known concept. And so in this case, these guys are doing Tai Chi, and I'm just walking around, and they said, do you want to join me and join us in doing this? And I said, no, actually, can I photograph it? And my whole task was to notice what people were doing and actually photograph them doing it. Thank you so much for watching this and for looking at the book. And it's a huge honor to have it out there in the world, and especially at this moment when maybe we're missing each other or missing just being out and about freely. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity, and see you out there.